I've been driving trucks for 15 years, crossed every lonely mile of highway this country has to offer, but there's one road I'll never take again. Because one night, outside a small town in Kansas, I saw a man get struck by lightning. Except he'd already been dead for 20 years. It was late, past midnight. I was hauling refrigerated goods to Denver, an easy run, mostly straight through the plains. But the weather turned bad fast. The radio went from country static to complete silence, and thunder started rolling so loud it shook my mirrors. Out there's nothing but open land and sky. No lights, no towns, just black horizon and rain hammering the windshield. Around 1 a.m. I saw the first lightning bolt hit the ground maybe a mile ahead. It split the sky wide open, so bright it burned my eyes. For a second, everything was white, and in that flash I saw something. A man. Standing right in the middle of the road, barefoot, drenched, just standing there, staring straight at my truck. I slammed on the brakes, tires screamed, the trailer fish-tailed, the road was slick as oil, and I felt the whole rig slide sideways. I yanked the wheel, but it was too late. The truck skidded off the road and into a ditch. The engine died, only the sound of rain. My heart was pounding so hard I couldn't hear anything else. I looked back toward the road, but the man was gone. I grabbed my CB radio, dead. Cell service, nothing. I sat there for a minute, just breathing, trying to make sense of what I saw. Then I remembered my emergency satellite phone in the glove box. Called dispatch. Told them I'd hit the ditch after swerving to avoid a person on the road. They said they'd send local police. While I waited, I kept my headlights on the road, hoping to see anything. But the rain just kept falling, washing everything clean, like the road didn't want to remember. It took about 20 minutes before a cruiser showed up. 2 officers stepped out, raincoats pulled tight. One shined a flashlight toward my truck, the other scanned the road. "You said someone was standing out there?" "Yeah," I said. "Right in the middle. I almost hit him." They looked at each other. "We'll take a look." They started down the highway, lights sweeping side to side. "Hey," one of them called, "you might want to see this." I climbed up onto the road, rain soaking me instantly. And that's when I saw them, bare footprints, dozens of them, leading straight down the center line of the highway, disappearing into the dark. The prints were fresh, rain hadn't washed them away, and they were barefoot. The cop whispered, "No one could walk out here like that in this weather." We followed the prints for maybe 100 yards. Then they just stopped. No turnoffs, no fields, no drag marks. They ended in the middle of the road. The cop said, "Could be runoff washed the rest away." But I looked around. The prints behind us were still perfect, like they'd been pressed into the road seconds ago. Something about it didn't feel right. The air felt heavy, charged, like the whole storm was holding its breath. Then out of nowhere, a blinding bolt of lightning hit a fence post just off the road. The sound was like the world splitting open, and in that flash, for just a heartbeat, I saw him again. The same man, standing in the field, his eyes white, smoke rising from his shoulders, and then nothing. When I came to, I was on the ground. The cops were shouting, asking if I was all right. The air smelled like burnt metal. One officer swore he saw the same thing I did. The other said there was nothing there. They helped tow my rig out, filed a report, told me to get checked out. I left Kansas that night and swore I'd never come back. A few days later, I got a call from the tow yard in that county. The guy who handled my truck asked, "You said you saw a man out there, right?" I told him, "Yeah, barefoot, middle of the road." He went quiet, then said, "You probably don't want to hear this, but there was a hitchhiker killed on that same stretch, 20 years ago. Lightning strike, fried him where he stood." He laughed nervously. "Locals call that spot the highway flash." I thought about it for days, tried to convince myself it was a trick of the light, shock, imagination, anything. But a week later, when I cleaned the truck, I noticed something on the front bumper. A perfect, blackened handprint, like someone had pressed their bare hand against the metal, still hot from the lightning. Sometimes, on long drives, I still see lightning on the horizon. And every time it flashes, I half expect to see him again. Standing in the middle of the road, barefoot, waiting for someone else to come through. If you ever find yourself driving Highway 40 through western Kansas during a storm and you see a flash of white out on the road, don't stop. Just keep driving, because some people don't rest, even after the lightning takes them. I swear I heard it, a knock, from inside my house. The power was out, thunder shaking the walls, and the only light came from the faint blue flashes outside my window. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear the storm anymore. I just sat there, frozen, staring at the door to my living room. Someone or something was in there. It all started a few hours earlier. The weather report had warned about a severe thunderstorm system, but I didn't think much of it. I live alone on the edge of town, in an old 2-story house surrounded by trees. It's quiet, peaceful most of the time. That night, I made tea, grabbed a blanket, and curled up on the couch with a book. The wind outside sounded like ocean waves. When the first crack of thunder hit, it felt like the whole house jumped. Then the lights flickered, once, twice, and everything went black. The silence that followed was heavy, only the howling wind and rain pounding on the glass. I used my phone's flashlight, the weak beam cutting through the darkness as I searched for candles. The storm outside was relentless. Thunder rolled again, so deep it made my chest vibrate. I tried to tell myself it was just weather, nothing more, until I heard the first knock. It was faint at first. Knock, knock. I froze. It sounded like it came from the front door. I waited, thinking maybe I imagined it. But then, knock, knock, knock. I stood up, every muscle in my body tense. Maybe it was a neighbor, I thought. People sometimes lost power around here. Maybe someone needed help. The wind screamed as I reached the door. My hand hovered over the knob. Hello? I called out. Is someone there? No answer. Just rain. I took a deep breath and opened the door. No one, only darkness. The porch was empty. Rain soaked the wooden boards. My doormat was half floating in a puddle. The wind howled through the trees, bending branches like arms reaching toward me. Hello? I shouted again. Nothing. I stepped out just a little, enough for the rain to sting my face, and looked around. Not a single car on the road. No flashlight beams. Nothing but darkness and noise. I went back inside, shut the door tight, and locked it. But as I turned around, I swore I heard something move behind me. I told myself I was overreacting. Just nerves. The storm was playing tricks on me. I lit a few candles and sat back on the couch, trying to calm down. The flickering light made the shadows dance across the room. Minutes passed. I almost started to feel foolish, until the knocking came again. But this time, it was louder, closer. Knock, knock, knock. I jumped to my feet. It wasn't the front door this time. It sounded like it came from the back. I walked slowly through the dark hallway, phone flashlight trembling in my hand. Each knock echoed louder than the last. Knock, knock, knock. When I reached the back door, I called out again. Who's there? Nothing. I unlocked it, opened it fast, and there was no one. Rain splashed my feet. The yard was empty. I shut the door. This time, I slid the deadbolt across, hard. That's when I heard it, through the howling wind, faintly like a whisper, someone saying my name. Clara. It was coming from outside. I froze, every inch of my body screaming to run. I turned off the flashlight. The world went dark. I listened. Clara, let me in. It sounded like my neighbor's voice, but she had moved away months ago. I stumbled backward, trying to convince myself I was hearing things. The wind, the thunder, my imagination. Then it happened. Knock. But this time, it didn't come from the front door. It didn't come from the back door either. It came from inside, right behind me. I turned around slowly, my heart slamming in my chest. The door to the basement was slightly open. A crack of darkness gaped beneath it. Another knock, from inside the basement. I didn't want to go down there. Every instinct screamed, don't. But I had to know. I grabbed the nearest candle and crept toward the basement door. The air felt colder as I opened it wider. The candle flame flickered like it wanted to die. The stairs vanished into pitch black. I called out, voice trembling, who's there? No answer. Just one last knock from below. I took one step down, then another. The wood creaked beneath my feet. When I reached the bottom, the candle flickered violently and went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Then lightning flashed through a tiny basement window. just enough for me to see a shape standing in the far corner. Someone was there, and it was smiling. I screamed and ran up the stairs, slamming the door behind me. I locked it, pushed a chair against the knob, and didn't move for the rest of the night. When the sun finally rose, I called the police. They searched the house from top to bottom. They said the basement was empty, no footprints, no sign of anyone. But before they left, one of the officers asked, "Ma'am, did you have this door locked last night?" He pointed to the basement door. The lock was broken, from the inside. That was 3 nights ago. I still haven't gone near the basement. But last night, when the wind picked up again, I heard it. Faint, deliberate, knock, knock, coming from inside the walls. I'll never forget that night by the lake, not because of the storm, not because of the lightning, but because I saw something standing in the water, something that shouldn't have been there. And the next morning, it had walked to us. I can still smell the burnt grass where its footprints ended, right outside my tent flap. It was supposed to be a normal weekend, just me and my friends, 5 of us total, camping by Holloway Lake. We'd driven up that Friday, 3 cars packed with food, beer, and tents. The place was known for being quiet, no cell service, no cabins, just endless trees and a cold, deep lake. The air smelled like pine and wet soil. We pitched our tents right by the shoreline. Everything felt peaceful, too peaceful maybe, the kind of quiet that makes your ears ring. Around midnight, the wind started picking up. The surface of the lake went from glass smooth to rippling. Thunder echoed across the mountains. We were huddled under the tarp, laughing, drinking, pretending we weren't scared. Then came the first flash of lightning. It was so bright it lit up the entire lake like daylight. And that's when I saw it, a shape standing out there in the water. At first I thought it was one of us, maybe Jason, playing a prank. But the figure didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't breathe. It was just standing there, perfectly still, facing our camp. Another flash lit up the sky, and I saw the water boiling around its legs. Steam rose like smoke, then darkness again. When I turned on my flashlight and aimed it toward the water, it was gone. We tried to laugh it off. Probably just a trick of the light, someone said, but none of us could sleep after that. Every time the wind rattled the tents, we jumped. Every flash of lightning made us look toward the water again. By 2 a.m., the rain stopped. The storm drifted off. The night went deathly quiet. No frogs, no crickets, just the drip of water from the trees and the sound of something softly moving in the lake. Then came the scream, high-pitched, human. It came from the water. We all rushed out of our tents, flashlights shaking in our hands. The beam cut across the lake, and for a split second I swear I saw a face just below the surface. Eyes wide open, mouth frozen in a scream. Then, bubbles and silence. None of us slept that night. We just sat around the dying campfire until dawn, waiting for daylight. When the sun finally rose, we thought maybe it was over. But then Carly screamed. She was pointing at the edge of the lake. There, pressed into the wet sand, were footprints. Not normal ones. The ground around them was scorched black. Each step looked burned into the earth, leading straight toward our tents. We followed the prints. They stopped right outside my tent. The last one was half pressed into the ground, still warm. I remember kneeling down, touching it. It felt electric, like touching a live wire. Then we heard it again, a low hum coming from the lake, like thunder underwater. Clouds rolled back in, fast, unnaturally fast. The wind howled across the lake, and the smell of ozone filled the air. Jason shouted, "We need to go." But before we could pack, lightning struck the water again, so bright it blinded us, and this time, the silhouette was closer, right at the shoreline. We ran, through the trees, tripping over roots, screaming each other's names. I turned once, just once, and saw it walking after us, slow, deliberate, each step leaving glowing footprints in the wet soil. The air buzzed like static. My skin burned where the rain hit me, like tiny sparks. We made it to the cars, but when Jason tried to start his engine, nothing. Every car was dead, the batteries drained. Then lightning struck again, closer this time, hitting the trees just behind us. And in that white flash, I saw it standing right beside my window. Its skin was charred. its eyes empty but glowing faint blue. And then it smiled. The next thing I remember is the sound, a deafening crack, and everything went white. When I opened my eyes, I was lying in the mud, alone. Smoke rose from the trees, the others were gone. The lake was calm again, silent, like nothing had ever happened. They never found my friends, just the cars and 5 sets of burnt footprints leading from the forest back into the lake. Sometimes I dream about that night, the lightning, the humming, the figure standing in the water. And when it storms outside my window, I swear I can hear footsteps in the rain. Getting closer. If you ever camp near a lake during a storm, don't look into the lightning, because something might be looking back. If you enjoyed these horror stories, please give this video a like and leave a comment. I'd love to know which story chilled you the most. Don't forget to subscribe for more true horror tales every week. I'll never forget that night. The storm was so violent it felt like the sky itself was angry, like it wanted to tear my little farm apart. And in a way, maybe it did. Because what I saw in that barn wasn't something human. And I know that because I saw its shadow, and it still burned into my mind. Sometimes I still hear its footsteps up in the hayloft when it rains. It was sometime past midnight. The storm came out of nowhere. One moment the night was calm, and the next, the sky was split by lightning. I was fixing the south fence earlier that day, so I had my tools out in the barn. When the storm started, I ran there to get out of the rain. The wind was so strong it nearly pulled the barn doors right out of my hands. I slammed them shut, threw the latch, and leaned against the wall to catch my breath. That's when I heard it, a slow, rhythmic creak above me, like someone shifting their weight on the hayloft boards. At first I thought maybe it was the wind or maybe one of the barn cats, but then I heard it again, thud, thud, slow, deliberate footsteps, coming from directly above me. I froze. My first thought was that one of my kids had followed me out here. Maybe they got scared of the thunder, so I called out, "Eli, you up there, buddy?" No answer, just silence, except for the sound of the rain hitting the roof. Then lightning flashed, bright enough to light up the whole barn, and that's when I saw it. On the far wall, between the ladder and the hay bales, was a shadow. It was tall, too tall, and its arms, they were long, hanging down almost to its knees. It was standing perfectly still. I didn't breathe, couldn't. The thunder rolled, loud enough to shake the walls, and when I looked again, the shadow was gone, but the ladder creaked as if something heavy had just moved. I finally found my voice and called again. "Eli? Sarah? If you're up there, this isn't funny." No answer, so I grabbed the lantern and started climbing the ladder. Every rung creaked beneath me. The smell of hay and damp wood was thick in the air. When I reached the top, my light caught something that froze me cold. Footprints. Fresh, wet footprints in the hay, as if someone had just come in from the rain. But the barn doors were locked, and I hadn't heard them open. I tried to tell myself it was nothing. Maybe the roof was leaking, maybe the prints were old. But then I felt it. That feeling when you're not alone, when something is watching you. The air felt heavy, like it was pressing down on me. I turned slowly, lifting the lantern higher. The light flickered, once, twice, and then went out. For a split second, everything was pitch black. And in that darkness, I heard breathing, slow, deep, right behind me. I swung the lantern around, trying to see. The wick sputtered back to life for just a moment, enough to catch a glimpse of movement in the far corner. Something tall, stepping back into the shadows. "Who's there?" I yelled. The only reply was the rustle of hay, and that slow, deliberate sound of footsteps again, circling me. My pulse was hammering in my ears. I backed toward the ladder, holding the lantern out in front of me like a weapon. Another flash of lightning lit up the barn, and I saw a shape crouched on the beams above me, head tilted, staring down. I didn't wait to see more. I turned and slid down that ladder so fast I nearly fell. I hit the ground and sprinted for the doors, fumbling with the latch. Behind me, I heard it drop from the loft, heavy, wet thud on the floorboards. I didn't look back. I just ran into the storm. Rain stung my face like needles, but I didn't stop until I reached the house. When I turned back, lightning struck again, and through the sheets of rain, I saw the barn doors slowly creak open. By morning, the storm was gone. I told myself it had all been a nightmare, that stress and exhaustion had gotten to me. But when I went back to the barn, the footprints were still there, leading from the hayloft all the way to the doors. And there, pressed into the mud just outside, were two enormous prints, far too large to be mine, and each one had 4 long toes. I never went back in there at night again. But sometimes when it rains, I hear the footsteps again, up in the hayloft, slow, heavy. And every time lightning flashes, I see that same long shadow stretch across the barn wall, like it's still there, waiting, watching. If you ever take shelter in a barn during a storm, don't look up, because if you see it, it's already seen you. I've seen hundreds of storms in my life. I've chased tornadoes, lightning, walls of rain that looked like the sky was collapsing. But nothing prepared me for what I saw in that photo. It was supposed to be my best shot yet, a perfect lightning strike, captured right as it hit an old tree in an open field. But when I looked closer, there was someone in the lightning, a dark figure, standing right in the bolt, staring directly at me. And the worst part? That field was completely empty when I took the shot. I've been chasing storms for almost a decade. There's something addictive about it. The rush of wind, the vibration of thunder in your chest, the feeling of standing on the edge of nature's rage. I always go alone. Some say that's reckless, but out there it feels like the storms know me, like they're watching. That night, the radar showed a supercell building fast, about 40 miles north, the kind that births monster lightning bolts. So I packed my gear, grabbed my camera, and drove straight into the heart of it. By midnight, I found it, an open plain with a single dead tree right in the middle. The sky was black, thick with clouds. Every few seconds, lightning lit up the world like a camera flash. I set up my tripod, adjusted the lens, and waited. Then, out of nowhere, boom! A blinding bolt split the sky and slammed right into that tree. The sound hit a second later, like a bomb. I checked the preview screen, and I couldn't believe it. The shot was perfect. The kind of picture that could make your whole career. I didn't see the figure then, not yet. That came later. I got home around 3 a.m., drenched and exhausted. But I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that shot. So I transferred the files to my laptop and opened the photo. That's when I saw it. There, inside the lightning bolt, a dark silhouette, human-shaped, standing dead center, perfectly upright. Its head tilted slightly forward like it was looking straight into the lens. I thought it was just noise, a digital artifact. But when I zoomed in, I swear I could make out a face. And it wasn't distorted, it wasn't motion blur, it was staring right at me. I showed it to my friends the next day, other storm chasers, photographers, skeptics. They laughed it off. Dude, it's just pareidolia, they said. Your brain's making patterns out of static. I tried to laugh too, but something about it felt wrong. That face wasn't random, it felt intentional. That night, while I was editing, my monitor flickered. For half a second, the image distorted, and the figure, it moved. It turned its head, ever so slightly, to the side. I unplugged everything, but when the screen went black, I swear I saw a faint glow, like lightning, reflected in the window behind me. A week later, another storm hit the same area. Massive system. Radar lit up like a Christmas tree. I told my friends I was going back out there. They told me not to, said it was dangerous, that I was seeing things. But I had to know. Something inside me needed answers. When I arrived, the field was different. The tree, the one that got hit, was gone. Just splinters and ashes left. And the air, it felt charged, like static electricity crawling under my skin. I set up my camera again. The wind howled, the thunder sounded closer each time. And then I saw it, a flicker out in the field, a flash of light, not lightning but something else. Through the rain I could see a figure, standing where the tree used to be, completely still, facing me. I shouted. Nothing. Then the lightning struck again, and for an instant I saw its face. It was me, or something that looked exactly like me, burned, blackened, eyes glowing like white-hot coals. That's the last thing I remember. The lightning hit, and everything went white. My camera was found a few days later, half buried in mud, still recording. The footage showed me standing there, staring into the storm, and then, out of nowhere, a bolt hit the exact spot I was standing. When the light faded, I was gone. Only my camera remained. They never found me, or at least, not alive. A week later, one of my friends went through the photos on my recovered memory card. All the images were corrupted, except one, the lightning shot, the one with the figure. Only this time, there were two figures in the bolt, both of them staring directly at the camera. So if you ever see a storm building in the distance, and you feel that pull to get closer, don't. Because some storms, they don't just take your breath away, they take you. I still don't know what that thing was, but I do know one thing, it wasn't human. Not after what I saw in that shelter, not after the puddle kept steaming, even after it vanished. The rain was coming down so hard it sounded like gravel hitting the windshield. I could barely see 10 feet ahead. My partner Mia tried to joke about it, saying storms like this never end well in horror movies. I laughed, but inside, I was scared. The highway was nearly empty, just darkness, lightning, and the distorted shape of trees bending in the wind. Then the radio crackled. Severe storm warning, tornado activity detected, take shelter immediately. My stomach dropped. That's when we saw it, a flickering green sign through the sheets of rain. Mile marker 12, roadside rest shelter. We didn't think, we just turned in. The place looked abandoned, just a concrete box with a metal roof rattling in the wind. But it was better than dying out there on the highway. When we pushed open the heavy door, the smell hit us, cold, damp concrete, and something else. Something like wet cloth soured by time. Lightning flashed behind us, and in that moment I saw him. A man, soaked to the bone, standing in the far corner of the shelter, not moving, his back to us, just staring at the wall. There was a huge puddle around his feet, like he'd been standing there for hours. Mia whispered, "Sir, are you okay?" No response. I stepped closer. "Hey, we didn't mean to startle you." The man didn't turn, didn't flinch, didn't breathe as far as I could tell, just stared at that wall. We assumed he was in shock from the storm. Maybe he'd crashed or gotten lost. The storm hammered the metal roof so loudly we practically had to shout, "Sir, do you need help?" Nothing. Mia tugged my arm. "Let's just stay on our side. He creeps me out." So we sat on a bench opposite him. I kept glancing at him, waiting for him to turn, to blink, to do something. But he just stood there, perfectly still, the puddle spreading, the water beneath him rippling, even though he wasn't moving. The longer I stared, the more wrong it felt. His clothes were old, like decades old. His jacket was heavy canvas, torn at the collar. His shoes looked almost rotten, waterlogged beyond anything normal. I whispered, "Mia, he looks like he's been standing in the rain for days." She didn't answer, because something else suddenly grabbed our attention, a soft hiss. The puddle beneath him was steaming. "What the hell?" I muttered. The shelter was freezing, our breath visible in the air. There was no way any puddle should be steaming. Lightning flashed again, and in that split-second burst of white light, I finally saw his face reflected faintly on the wet wall. I wish I hadn't. His eyes, wide open, his mouth slightly parted like he was silently screaming. His skin, gray, swollen, and peeling like he drowned hours ago. The storm pounded louder, the air pressure dropping, my ears popping. Mia grabbed my arm. "We need to go, now." We backed toward the door. My heart was thundering. I couldn't look away from him. Then the lights outside flickered. Darkness swallowed the room, for just a breath. When the lightning flashed again, the man was gone. Vanished. No footsteps, no sound, nothing. Except the puddle, still there, still steaming. The steam rose in thin threads, twisting upward like fingers reaching for us. We bolted for the door. Rain whipped against us as we sprinted to the car. Mia fumbled with the keys, hands shaking. I kept looking back, waiting to see him standing in the doorway. But nothing was there. No silhouette, no movement. Just that pulsing haze of steam drifting out of the shelter like breath. We slammed into the car, locked the doors, and sped off. The storm chased us down the highway, but I swear I could feel something else right behind us. Something that hadn't been alive for a very long time. When we finally reached our motel miles away, Mia went straight to bed. She wanted to forget it, but I couldn't. I kept replaying one detail in my head, something I didn't tell her. As we drove off, I looked in the side mirror. In the lightning glow behind us, I saw a shape standing at the shelter entrance. It looked like the man, or what used to be him. But the water, the puddle, was no longer steaming, because it wasn't there anymore. It was dripping off him, drop by drop, as if he was following the storm, waiting for the next traveler to take shelter, waiting for another warm body to stand beside. So if you're ever driving on a stormy night and you see a rest shelter at mile marker 12, keep driving. Don't stop. Because some storms don't hide from you, they hunt. Thanks for watching Sinister Horror Diaries. Until next time, stay safe, stay scared, stay sinister.